Peace, peace. Peace, peace. Okay, that sounds perfect. That sounds perfect. Let me go ahead and check it one more time. It's perfect. That sounds perfect. Let me go ahead and check it one more time. It's perfect. Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds amazing. Love family, this is the Satrilrose coming at you guys with another exclusive video. Man, it's been a while. It's been a while since I've been live. Man, I'm sitting here right now, man. I'm playing Ghost of Tsushima right now. So I'm just chilling right now and just relaxing. And I was really in this space to where it's like, you know what? I'm getting all of these downloads about this particular movie, about this film that Ryan Coogler just came out with. You dig what I'm saying? About this film that Ryan Coogler just came out with Michael B. Jordan and a few other amazing actors and actresses, man. So I really just wanted to give my take and my breakdown of this particular film because it's such a layered film, man. Like, it's such a layered movie to where it's like it's so many deeper meanings to the film that I had to at least, you know what I'm saying, try my hand at breaking down this movie. And this isn't something that I particularly do per se, but it's definitely something that I wanted to try my hand in, man. So without further ado, man, this is the Satrilrose again, coming at you guys with another exclusive video, a live stream, of course. And man, we go get into it, man. And of course, if you guys would like to receive any of my spiritual services, as far as divination, as far as, and you know what, I want to take a second to actually talk about that, right? So as of right now, I am doing a coaching program to help understand, so the individuals like myself who are on a certain path can understand different deity pantheons and different, you know what I'm saying, like, you know, different spirits and different deities or whatever the case may be, you know. So that's definitely something that you can go on my website and check out, as well as receiving your LAKs, you know what I'm saying, receiving your LAKs. And I'm also offering spell work as well, you know. So if you are interested in you know, any of those services, please you can find me on Instagram at the Satrilrose. Again, you can find me on Instagram at the Satrilrose, as well as TikTok. And you can hit my business email at satrilrose@gmail.com, or you can just simply DM me. I will never DM you first. You can just simply, like I said, you can just simply DM me and we can set up your consultation and we can get going from there. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, you know, like I said, man, I'm really looking forward to working with the collective and really just connecting with y'all, man, because, you know, this work that I do, man, the work that we do collectively is needed right now. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man, this film, man, it's kind of like, you know, just to dive right in. It's one of those timepieces that I can already tell is gonna be a classic movie. I've already watched it twice. And you know, I also want to, you know, I have the disclaimer in the title. You know, it may be a few spoilers in here, so if you have not seen the movie, you know, go and watch the movie and come back to this video, right? So with that being said, man, you know, there are movies that I like to refer to when it comes to, you know, movies that are kind of like not necessarily an older movie, but more so like a timepiece, right? So this movie is obviously set, you know, during that sharecropping, you know what I'm saying, in the deep south. You know, individuals were sharecropping. You know, it seems as though that this setting is a little bit after slavery or whatever the case may be, you know. And it just really just gives that old southern folklore a representation in this film. You know what I'm saying? It was so much going on back then, man. It was so much going on, and it was a lot of magic going on as well. So it's like I feel as though that this movie it highlights that this movie. And man, I gotta tip my hat off to Ryan Coogler, man, because like this brother, man, this man has set the standard when it comes to black films. You know what I'm saying? And you know, coming from where he come from, I know that that's probably not as easy to break through, you know, when it comes to this industry, but he's done it in such a beautiful way, man. I gotta tip my hat off to the brother, man, for real. So I gotta give flowers to those you know, to individuals like him, man, you know, individuals like Ryan Coogler, because man, that film, man, You know, of course, we all know that this is an individual who, you know, who actually he actually directed Black Panther, as well as Fruitvale Station and a few other films as well. You know what I'm saying? So his track record, his resume is definitely definitely adequate. You know what I'm saying? So, and you know, of course, I gotta tip my hat off to Michael B. Jordan as well. I have to say, for him to be able to pull a role off like this, and I'm gonna talk about that as well. For him to be able to pull a role off like such as this, I gotta say that I'm impressed, man. I'm definitely impressed, because based off of the fact that you know, not many people can do that. Not many people can play, you know, as almost like, I guess it's, you know, twins in a sense, right? I mean, obviously they're twins, right? So you have two individuals, two twins, who are literally, you know, two halves of one individual, but at the same time, it's like they have two different personalities. You know what I'm saying? And that's not easy to pull off, man. That's not easy to pull off. That's not easy to pull off. So, you know, kind of touching on them for a second, right? And I feel as though that they kind of set the standard of what this film was basically gonna be about. They set the standard on what this film is gonna be about. You know, we're talking about duality, right? We're talking about duality. We're talking about temptation. We're talking about greed. We're talking like so many aspects. It's like I said, man, it's such a layered film, you know? So yeah, man, you know, being in that space to where, you know, you have an actor who can pull this off and play these two different aspects of two individuals, man, it's powerful, man. It's powerful. You dig what I'm saying? And I just feel like, man, you know, I just feel like when it comes to a movie like this, I can already tell that this is gonna be a movie that I'm gonna be watching over and over, even after I put out this video and I finish this stream. I can already tell that this is gonna be a movie that I go back and watch again. You know what I'm saying? Because I know that there's gonna be other things that I can pinpoint and I can speak on as well, even after watching it a third time. You dig what I'm saying? So yeah, man, I'm definitely looking forward to this, man. I can't wait to listen back to this, because I know it's gonna be a powerful breakdown. So again, you know, jumping right back into the whole duality aspect, right? So in this film, you have two brothers, Smoke and Stack, right? And me personally, right, I like to associate the Orisha with a lot of the things that are portrayed in both the physical reality, which can be in our personal lives, as well as, you know, the form of entertainment that we choose to partake in, right? So me personally, this is just my opinion, I feel as though that Smoke actually represents Ogun. You know, he's all about his business. He's all about hard working. He's all about getting it by any means necessary. You know what I'm saying? Getting it by any means necessary. He's extremely fucking aggressive. Like, he's aggressive. Like, I'm talking about aggressive, like Ogun, like that type of energy. You dig what I'm saying? Like, really that type of energy for real, right? And you can kind of see him as like an anti-hero type of energy, right? They both are, really. So you have, I believe his name is Stack, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong about that. I'll make that correction later on. But yeah, his twin brother, me personally, I feel as though that he represents Eshu. You know what I'm saying? He represents Eshu. He knows how to make those connections. He knows how to connect people. He's a fast talking, you know what I'm saying? Like kind of like a trickster type of spirit, but he gets shit done. You dig what I'm saying? Like, he really gets shit done for real. You know what I'm talking about? Like, he really gets shit done, and he does it in such a finessing way. So me personally, like I said, I feel as though that he has that connection to Eshu. He has that connection to Eshu, you know. And I feel as though that when it comes to these Orisha, man, you know, a lot of people, speak about certain Pataki in certain, you know, mythologies when it comes to these Orisha. But man, Eshu and Ogun are brothers. You know, Eshu and Ogun are brothers. you know, and they have such a powerful dynamic when they work together, and when they, man, like I said, they get shit done at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? They get shit done at the end of the day. So like I said, I feel as though that this aspect of the movie, just starting off with those two brothers coming back in town after coming back from Chicago, you know, coming back from Chicago, such a fast-paced city where you have to talk fast and you have to move swiftly, and you really got to be about your shit. You really got to be about, you dig what I'm saying? Like you really gotta be on your P's and Q's. Them coming back home to the South, man, that, like I said, that really set the standard. You know, that really set the standard as far as understanding who these two individuals are. You know, and as you can see in the thumbnail, you know, you have that light and dark aspect, right? And I feel as though that we have to understand. Hold on, let me check the audio one more time. I feel as though that we have to understand. Okay, cool. So yeah, we have to understand that we are individuals, and I feel as though this is something that we've struggled with, that we still struggle with, you know. And this is why I feel as though that a lot of individuals, they end up going back to Christianity, which I have no issue with, you know, because even in that, there's aspects of light and dark energy as well, right? Because we have to understand, especially as individuals who are melanated, we are both light and dark, right? So we have the ability to obtain both light and dark energies in both the physical world and as well as the spiritual world, as far as the spiritual realm, right? And that's something, again, like I said, man, this is just something that I feel as though that we struggle with, man. This is something that I just feel as though that we struggle with as a people, you know, when it comes to the whole, you know, what we deem as good and what we deem as evil. You know what I'm saying? You know, these two brothers, man, they obviously, like I said, they hustlers, man. They hustlers, and they go get it by any means necessary, right? So 9 times out of 10, you know, if you really just look at the, you know, if you look at the film and you really pay attention and you really listen, it's obvious that these brothers are, you know, they bank robbers or whatever case may be, right? And some people may look at that like, damn, okay, like they had to steal, they had to rob, and they had to kill, and they had to do all of this shit, you know, to obtain what they obtained. But at the same time, it's like, look at the aspect of what they came back home to do and what their mission was. You know what I'm saying? What their mission was. You have individuals who have been working all fucking day in a scorching heat, making little to nothing, sharecroppers picking cotton, all of this shit, and they gave them an avenue of escape just by creating this, mind you, in one night, just by creating something as simple as you know what I'm saying, something as simple as a juke joint. Within one night they were able to do this. And within one night they were able to do this, man. That's not an easy feat. So that speaks on who these brothers are, and the aspect of, you know, understanding that, man, you can be a hometown hero. You can be a hometown hero, you know, in a blink of an eye. You know, and I feel as though that's what they accomplished at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? That's what they were looking to accomplish at the end of the day, man. You know, so yeah, I definitely wanted to speak on that, as far as, man, because like I said, man, it's like they really set the standard of the deeper aspect or the deeper meaning of this movie, of this film. You know what I'm saying? And you know, you have Eshu who man, it's so much that I can say about Eshu, right? It's so much that I can say about Eshu, and he plays a huge part in that, in being able to tread that line of light and dark, you know, with the red and the black, right? He treads the line of being able to walk that threshold, because it's like, with him, it's damn near like he knows how to pop in and out of that veil. He knows how to pop in and out of that veil, you know. And if you pay attention to his brother, you know, he plays around in both the light and dark aspects of life. You know what I'm saying? In both the light and dark aspects of life. You dig what I'm saying? Like, man, it's such a powerful, you know, if you pay attention to those brothers, man, in this movie, it's such a powerful dynamic that they have. Not only do they understand one another, although they may have their differences and although they may have things that they disagree on, it's like they play into that role so profoundly. They play into that energy so profoundly. You dig what I'm saying? So that's something that I definitely wanted to speak on, man. In this movie, well, it touched me so much to the point to where, man, I had to take notes on it, you know, as I was receiving those downloads, you know, as I was receiving those downloads. Yeah, y'all gotta excuse me, man, if I'm going back and forth and checking the audio. Yeah, if I'm going back and forth and checking the audio, because I really want to make sure that I get this down pat. Really want to make sure that I get this down pat. So yeah, man, you know, like I said, man, this movie, you know, and I really want to take my time on breaking this down. And like I said, we have so many films, you know, that speak about, because I mean, essentially it's like a horror film, right? It's a horror film, and we're talking about vampires and things of that nature. And you know, we can kind of touch on that for a second, right? We can kind of touch on that for a second. Let's talk about vampires for a second, right? You know, and that whole mythology or that whole lore of vampires, right? You know, it's said that Sekhmet, you have Akasha, who's the, you know what I'm saying? Obviously the queen of all. If you watch the Queen of the Damned, you have Akasha, the great mother of the these so-called vampires, right? You have Akasha, and then if you go back a little bit further, you have Sekhmet. Sekhmet is another known so-called vampire. You know, she drinks the blood of her enemies. You know, and let's speak about that, right? So with that energy being the case, we're talking about purification, right? We're talking about purification. We're talking about purity. You know what I'm saying? You have Ogun. Think about Ogun, and I like to associate Ogun with Blade as well. I like to associate, you know, that was one of my first introductions to what that energy of Ogun is and what he's about. You know what I'm saying? You know, anybody, man, we know the OG, you know, Wesley Snipes when he played his excuse me, not Ogun, when he played his Blade, rather. You know, when he played his Blade, you know, in that film, and that really just set the standard on what, you know, when it comes to those fantasy type of films. You dig what I'm saying? So yeah, Ogun, like I said, man, Ogun is a bloodthirsty, as well as Eshu, is a bloodthirsty Orisha. You know, bloodthirsty Orisha. He's literally the Orisha of war. You know, so when you're talking about vampirism, and I feel as though that, you know, movies like Blade and movies like Queen of the Damned and, you know, those type of films, they really speak to that lore and that energy of, you know, black vampires or whatever the case may be, right? So, you know, that's something that I definitely wanted to touch on, because I feel like, you know, we watch these movies and we don't necessarily pay attention to, you know, the mythology or what's being portrayed in the film. What's necessarily being portrayed in a particular film. You know what I'm saying? And I feel as though that when you understand this knowledge, and man, I'm gonna be honest with you, like all I've been doing is studying. So when you look at these different mythologies, whether it be Ifa, whether it be voodoo, whether it be, you know what I'm saying, whether it be Palo-Miambe, you know, you have those aspects to where, man, like I said, a lot of these spirits are bloodthirsty, man. A lot of these spirits are bloodthirsty when you give that Igbo, or when you give that sacrifice. You know what I'm saying? Like when you give that Igbo or when you give that sacrifice, but at the end of the day, it's for the greater good. It's for a higher purpose. You know, it's for a higher purpose. Even in Christianity, you know, and of course these things are not meant to be taken literal. right? They're not meant to be taken literal, but at the same time, it's like even in Christianity, you know, they say that I'm covered in the blood. You're covered in the blood of Christ. You know what I'm saying? So even with that, you know, let's speak about that. Even with that, that's talking about purification. That's talking about purity. That's talking about, you know what I'm saying? You know, so to kind of dive deeper into that aspect of it, right? So you have their little cousin Sammy. They have a little cousin Sammy. He's an amazing blues player, amazing blues singer, right? And he comes out of the church. He comes out of the church again, treading that line of both how can I put it? Yeah, of both light and dark. You know, he comes out of the church. His father is a preacher. He's a sharecropper by day and blues player by night. You dig what I'm saying? And ain't no telling what type of sins that boy committing when he's in those clubs playing blues, right? At least that's what his father is thinking, right? So, you know, with that being understood and that being, you know what I'm saying? You have that simple understanding of that when it comes to him, when it comes to his character, and how he portrayed that character, you can see again that whole aspect of light and dark. You dig what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, he still has his purity. He still has his innocence, because all he genuinely wants to do is play his music. All he wants to do is play his music and to be free. That's it. That's it. You dig what I'm saying? Because he understands that there's nothing for him back home. There's nothing for him. Like he's not making any money. You know what I'm saying? He's not able to go anywhere. He hasn't seen the world. He hasn't traveled, any of that. So his main goal is to just play his music and be free. That's it. You know, that's all he wants to do. And he's such a young individual. Like my guess, his character would be about, I want to say maybe anywhere between 19 to 22 years old, if that old. You dig what I'm saying? If that old, you know? So, you know, like I said, man, you know, his character is I feel as though that with him, it's such a straightforward type of energy, because it speaks about innocence. It speaks about innocence. You know what I'm saying? And when you watch the movie, Remick, the main antagonizer, the vampire, whatever the case may be, the main vampire, he's kind of like a Dracula type of figure. When you watch him and pay attention to the lines, he you know what I'm saying? Like when he first met Sammy, his first line to him, his first words were to him, "It was your voice that I heard. That's why we're here. It was your voice that I heard." You know what I'm saying? So with that alone, man, that's powerful within itself. With that alone, that speaks volumes. You know, that speaks volumes within itself. Just that line alone. Because again, his ashe was pure. His ashe was pure, right? And it was like I said, it was innocent. It was that innocence that you know, it was that innocence that really, you know what I'm saying? Like that really attracted that energy. And essentially that's something that I want to speak about too, man, because when you have this energy of purity, right? When you have this energy of purity and your ashe hasn't been tainted, or it hasn't been corrupt, meaning your soul hasn't been corrupt, you're gonna attract individuals who want to leech off of that. You're gonna attract individuals who want to take that energy for themselves. You know, individuals who want to take that energy for themselves. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, man, these movies and these films and these, you know what I'm saying, and even these mythologies, a lot of this stuff is not meant to be taken literal, right? Again, speaking about the whole vampiric type of energy, right? Speaking about that, energy can be transmitted in so many different avenues. Emotionally, physically, mentally, So when you have individuals who have like this vampiric type of energy, this vampiric type of vibe, you know, that can be through sex, that can be through conversation, that can be through manipulation. It's so many avenues to where that this vampire energy can present itself. So many avenues. And that's why, you know, in every film, every horror film where vampires are present, they come off like as like this seducing type of, they have this seducing type of energy about them. You know, they have this seduction type of energy about them. You know, and I feel like that again, man, you know, when you have that energy, and you have that essence about you to where you're pure of heart, and your energy, your ashe hasn't been tainted, your soul hasn't been corrupted, you're gonna attract individuals like that. You're gonna attract individuals like that, man. And it's unfortunate, but I mean that's just you know what it is. You know, so you know, with him alone, with his character, man, you know, he definitely speaks on that, you know, speaks on that aspect of a purification and innocence, right? So even in that movie, you know, even in the movie where, you know, he met old girl, you know what I'm saying? He met old girl, and you know what I'm saying? She admitted to him like, hey, I'm married. He wasn't worried about none of that shit. You dig what I'm saying? Like, he wasn't worried about none of that. He didn't care about that. All he knew was he wanted this woman. You know what I'm saying? All he knew, and all it took was for bro to sing. All it took was for bro to play that guitar. That's all it took. You know what I'm talking about? Like, that's all it took. You know? And he took her to that back room, and it was over with. You dig what I'm saying? Like, it was over with. You know? Again, that energy, that ashe. And when you have that, like, it's unmistakable. You know what I'm saying? Like, you really can't compete. There's nothing that you can compete with that. You know, so yeah. You know, when he was in a space to where, even when he was in a space to where he so-called committed a sin, right? He so-called committed a sin in that film. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, he took it to that back room, and it was on, you know what I'm saying? It was on from there. You know, even in that essence, he still had his innocence, and he still had his purity. He still had his innocence, and he still had his purity. And again, that's why he was wanted the most in that film. The entire movie, Remick, the main vampire, kept saying, it's him that I want. And he even had a line in that movie where he said, you're gonna help me. He said something about, you're gonna help me get back to my people. I've been trapped for so long. Something along those lines. Something along those lines. He said, you're gonna help me get back to my people. Damn, what did he say? He said, you're gonna help me get back to my people. I've been trapped for so long. So again, man, it's that energy. And I feel like a lot of people talking about this too, right? You know, you go on the internet, a lot of people have that breakdown of the movie or whatever the case may be, right? And this is why I say, like, these are my opinions. This is, you know what I'm saying? This is my, you know, particular breakdown of this movie, and everybody's saying like, yeah, you know, everything popped off right after he committed that after he, you know what I'm saying, did what he did with old girl, right? Which was, I guess you can consider that a sin, or what, well, you know, you can consider that, you know what I'm saying, adultery or temptation or whatever the case may be, right? So I feel as though that's to a certain extent, I can see that, but at the same time, it's like, I feel as though what's going over a lot of people's head with this film is that he still kept his innocence and he still kept his purity. Because if that was not the case, those vampires probably wouldn't want anything to do with him to begin with. You know, they probably wouldn't want anything to do with him to begin with if he was tainted. Because at that point, his soul would be tainted. You get what I'm saying? His soul would be tainted. You know? So he would be impure. They wouldn't want to feed on him if he was impure. You know? But hey, that's, like I said, man, this is just my opinion, and this is just me breaking down the film, breaking down on what I seen in the movie that really caught my eye. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, when it comes to him, you know, like I said, in that entire movie, and they even, you know, by the end of that movie, he left out of that entire fight. He left out of that entire fight, you know, with only a scratch on his face. You know, and like I said, when you have this protection over you, and I feel like his cousin Smoke represented that protection. Both of his cousins represented that protection, right? You got Eshu on one hand, you got Ogun on the other, and it was Ogun, which was Smoke, who essentially protected him in that movie. Because like I said, all he left from that fight. All he left from that fight was a scratch on his face. That's all he left with. That entire movie, he didn't get bit. He didn't get, you know what I'm saying? Like, even the girl that he was messing with, she ended up becoming a vampire. But again, it was him that he wanted the most. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't satisfied. He wasn't going to be satisfied until he got to Sammy. You dig what I'm saying? So when you have this pure energy and when you have this purity, and this is why in every Pataki in Ifa, right? They speak about Obatala. And they speak about why it was so important for Ogun, Shango, and Eshu to be connected to Obatala. Because he represents purity. He represents the white cloth. And speaking on that even further, if you watched, man, I'm telling you, man, I really hope that y'all go. If you haven't seen this movie, please go and watch this movie. At the end of this movie, Sammy, he ended up going back home, right? Because his father's church was literally right outside their house, right? He ended up going back home. What was everybody wearing in that church pew? They were wearing white. They were literally wearing white, which signifies purity, which signifies a cleanse, a purification. He still had that covering of Obatala. He still had that covering, you know what I'm saying? Like, he still had that innocence about him, that purity about him. So man, take heed. I feel like that's something that we should take heed to in that movie alone, just off of the strength that, you know what I'm saying? Like the more the purer you are, the more protected you are, essentially. You dig what I'm saying? Because like I said, man, it was his cousin who actually ended up killing the vampire. And what did that vampire do? It went up in smoke. Caught on fire and went up in smoke. You know? Caught on fire, ended up you know what I'm saying? Ended up purifying that particular energy. Telling you, man, this movie is powerful. If you really look at it in a spiritual, like, I was entertained, of course, because the acting was beautiful. The acting was on point. You did what I'm saying? Like, the acting was definitely on point. But at the same time, it's like, outside of being entertained, I had to look at this movie. I had to look at this film. in with a spiritual lens, with my spiritual eye. I couldn't just watch this movie with my two eyes. I had to watch this movie with my spiritual eye. So when you watch this movie, man, just be on the lookout and just really just pay attention to those nuances and just because it's very subtle, and you will miss it. It's very subtle. You know what I'm saying? It's very, very subtle. And if you're not paying attention, you will miss it. You will miss it. You know? So just watch this movie, man, and it's like, even the whole blues aspect of it, right? Even them incorporating blues into it. Blues is the foundation of the music that we have now. And I'm a blues player myself. If y'all ever listen to me playing my guitar, the first type of music that I ever played on my guitar was blues music. You know what I'm saying? That was the first genre that I studied when it came to me learning to play guitar. It is literally the foundation of the music that we have now. From trap music, you know what I'm saying? Like all of that, R&B, all of it, funk, all of it. It is jazz. It is literally the foundation of the music that we have. And again, this is us connecting to our roots. And why it's so important, and why it's so important to stay connected to our ancestors, man. Man, I got an uncle named, I got my Uncle Pete, man. Rising power to my Uncle Pete. Every time I played my guitar, he was like the leg button in my life, right? My Uncle Pete was a blues singer. My Uncle Pete was a blues singer. My Uncle Pete was a blues guitarist. You know what I'm saying? He was a blues player. He was a blues singer. So when I pick up my guitar, man, I'm connecting with an ancestor. This was a man that I adored. In all of his imperfection, this was a man that I adored. This was one of my uncles that, you know, I loved when he was around because I knew it was gonna be nothing but laughs. I knew it was gonna be nothing but laughs. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man, I feel like, man, like I said, man, like this movie, it definitely sparked something in me. You know, it's supposed to be a horror film, but it speaks so deeply about certain aspects of who we are. On who we are. You know, if you even watch the movie when he was doing that first performance at the club or whatever, right? That first performance at the club. And they spoke about, you know what I'm saying? And they portrayed how far back that energy traveled. Like I said, man, it's such a powerful movie, man. It's such a powerful movie, and I feel like a lot of us need to watch this film, man. A lot of us need to watch this film, you know. So yeah, man. Like I said, man, I pray that when this video is uploaded and this video is watched, I pray that a lot of you all have seen the movie and can even drop in the comments your particular breakdown of the movie, your particular you dig what I'm saying, like your particular breakdown of the movie, and what you were able to see in the movie, because I don't know everything. Maybe there's somebody who can actually break down the movie in a way that I couldn't, or notice things that I didn't notice. You know, but I definitely had to, and I don't even know how long this video is gonna be, but I had to get on here and at least speak about that aspect of the movie, right? So another thing that I want to talk about too, and again, this is us connecting back to our roots, this is us connecting back to our ancestry, is the fact that Ogun in the movie Smoke, you know. And I forgot the woman's name, but she was the hoodoo lady, basically the hoodoo lady in the movie, or the high priestess in the movie, right? She was kind of like the high priestess in the movie. You know what I'm saying? And again, you know, this introduction of the you know what I'm saying, her introduction in the movie, it really just spoke on the aspect of, you know, treading that line, or, you know, walking that line of both the physical and the spiritual realm, right? So he came back or whatever, came back home, ended up visiting her. Come to find out, they had a child. You know, he had a child that, you know, obviously had passed away. He's at the baby's grave. And when she came outside, it wasn't like she literally had no reaction. It was almost as if she knew that he was gonna be there. It was almost as if she knew that he was gonna be there, right? She knew that he was gonna be there. So with that being said, right, in that scene, she was given a mojo bag. She was given a mojo bag to the kids, right? To these kids, again, signifying innocence, signifying purity, right? And she told him, don't sell this on the way home, because I don't need your mama, you know what I'm saying, questioning me about this, right? Or trying to confront me about this, right? He goes on to say to her, you still believe, he says something, now, you know, you gotta excuse me, man. When I be watching these movies, you know, I don't even be paying attention to these people. I don't be trying to memorize these people's lines or whatever, right? Basically, he was saying that you still believe in this magic shit, this make-believe shit, basically. Like, you really still believe in this shit, right? This woman said to her, and I ain't gonna lie, this was probably the coldest line in that movie. You dig what I'm saying? Probably the coldest line in this movie. She was like, how do you know that it wasn't my roots and my herbs and my prayers that brought you back to me? How do you know it wasn't that? Because essentially that's exactly what it was. That's exactly what it was, like I said. And she probably already knew just through divination that he was gonna be there. She probably knew just through divination that he was gonna be there. Just through the strength of that alone, right? We're not even talking about the spiritual workings that this woman probably been doing. You dig what I'm saying? Like, come on, man, this shit is powerful. So boom, you know, he goes on to say, well, excuse me, she goes on to say, I worked every root and every fixing that my grandmother taught me to keep you and that crazy ass brother of yours safe. That's Oba-Nani, man. That's Oba-Nani to a T. That's Oba-Nani to a T. This woman said, I worked every root every prayer that my grandmother taught me to keep you and that crazy ass brother of yours safe. And something else that I feel like a lot of individuals aren't talking about, right? Had it not been for that protection, had it not been for those prayers, they probably wouldn't have hit the way that they hit. Because whoever they robbed, whoever they stole from, was loaded with bread. You dig what I'm saying? And had it not been for this woman's workings, had it not been for that magic, had it not been for her ashe, they probably wouldn't have made it back alive. 9 times out of 10, they probably wouldn't have made it back alive. You know, they probably wouldn't have made it back alive, man. So it's like the power of, you know, and again, you know, shameless plug. Like I said, man, I am in a space to where I am offering spiritual services, right? And I have to say for myself that with a lot of the things that I've been studying, whether it be Ifa, whether it be voodoo, whether it be even hoodoo, you know what I'm saying? I can tell you how powerful these energies are. I can tell you how powerful these workings are. I can tell you myself on how powerful, you know what I'm saying, when you truly know your ashe. When you truly know your ashe, and you truly know the power that you hold in both your hands and your tongue, you can do some powerful work, man. You can do some powerful work, from healing, from protection. Just a simple prayer, because it's the intent. It's the intent that matters. It's the intent and the amount of ashe that you're putting behind that. It's the intent and the amount of ashe that you're putting behind that, man. You know what I'm saying? So for her to say that, and for Ryan to be able to portray that in this movie, and I don't know if he's aware of this or not. I don't know if he's aware of how powerful these scenes are. Maybe he thinks he's just being creative, and that's powerful within itself. That's powerful within itself. But I'm telling you, this man is a genius. This man is a genius, and I feel as though that this is something that needs to be paid attention to. You know what I'm saying? Even going back to and this is kind of a side, I'm kind of getting off track a little bit, but even going back to the whole Black Panther. It was a lot of esoteric meanings in that movie as well. It was a lot of esoteric meanings in that movie as well. You know? A lot of esoteric meanings in that movie. So like I said, man, when we're watching these movies and we're watching these films, we can't just watch these movies and be entertained. We have to watch these movies and we have to watch these films. Even when you're listening to certain music, you gotta watch this shit with a spiritual eye. You know, with a spiritual eye. And it's all about knowing. You don't even have to be the most knowledgeable person. You don't have to be the most knowledgeable person. Because like I said, I don't know everything. It's just a matter of studying. It's just a matter of paying attention and being mindful of what you're hearing, what you're listening to, what you're seeing. That's what it's about. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's about. And it was well executed in this movie. The occultism in this movie was well executed. And I'm gonna be honest with you, like I said, man, I'm gonna watch the movie again, and it ain't no telling how many other connections I can make after the fact, after making this video, because there's gonna be more studying that I'm gonna be doing. So that's more knowledge, more wisdom that I can apply to this film. And like I said, look at her character alone, going back to her character. And I hate that I can't even remember the woman's name, man. I really hate that I can't remember her name, right? But she was taught by an elder. Her grandmother. She was taught by an elder. You know what I'm saying? She was taught by an elder. So she had to study. And through that study, you have to put into action, because you can't be in a space to where you're studying and you're not utilizing the knowledge and the wisdom that you hold, because at that point it's just spiritual constipation. At that point it's just spiritual constipation. Because you're not putting to use what you've learned. You're not putting to use what you've learned. You know what I'm talking about? So her role in that movie, again, it really set. And another thing that I want to speak about too, right? Because I'm actually just now remembering this part as well, right? She asked him, "You still got that mojo bag?" And even though he had his doubts, I mean, as men, we're gonna have our doubts when it comes to this shit, right? We're gonna have our doubts. We're gonna have our anxieties, or whatever the case may be, right? Even though he had his doubts, I guarantee you he had that mojo bag around his goddamn neck. You dig what I'm saying? He had that mojo bag around his neck. You know? He snatched it off his neck, handed it to her, and she blessed it. She prayed over it. She blessed it. And again, throughout the movie, if you really pay attention to the movie, had it not been for this woman's magic, bro probably would have died long ago. Probably wouldn't be no movie. Probably wouldn't even be a movie. You know what I'm saying? And when his brother was actually turned, it was her knowledge. It was her knowledge when shit started to really pop off. It was her knowledge that got them through that whole situation. You know what I'm saying? It was her knowledge and her wisdom that got them through that situation. And it really shows why studying is so fucking important. It really shows why studying is so fucking important, man. Because it could really be a situation to where it's really the blind leading the blind. Had she not known a lot of the shit that she knew. You know what I'm saying? So another thing that I wanted to talk about too, right? And I know it seems as though that I'm all over the place with this, but this is like, you know what I'm saying? This was something that I you know, really had to really take my time to even organize these downloads that I was getting from this film. The Native Americans was actually tracking Remick, the like I said, the main antagonizer, the vampire, if that's his name for real in the movie, but you know, the main vampire. And his introduction in the movie, he was being chased by the Native Americans, right? He was being chased by the Native Americans. He was being ran down by the Native Americans. And 9 times out of 10, I remember somebody saying this too, 9 times out of 10, he tried to overtake the Native Americans just like he did the Black Americans, right? In this movie. But those people are they're shamans. They're warriors, right? And those people are so fucking connected to their land and their ancestry and their beliefs and their magic and their rituals. They're gonna know when something is off. They're gonna know when something is off. They're gonna know when there's a demonic force amongst them. You know what I'm saying? Why? Because they're connected to their magic. They're connected to their ancestry. And they still are. So they innately knew that it was something off. And they hunted bro down. They hunted bro down. You know what I'm saying? They hunted him down. And that's that Achosi energy that I want to connect that to. That's that Achosi. You know, Achosi, you know what I love about him? What I love about Achosi, man, and I feel as though that's something that I want to speak on for a second, right? Because I have been speaking about the Orisha, and I feel as though that he's not talked about enough. He's not talked about enough. He's a shaman. He's so connected to the spiritual realm. Especially when he descended from heaven. All he had was his bow and arrow. So he's not just a warrior, but he's a hunter. And he's gonna achieve that goal of catching his prey every single time. he's gonna achieve that goal every single time. Every single time he's gonna catch his prey. And this is why this is such a powerful Orisha that you can petition when you're doing a road opening. You can petition when you're looking to achieve a goal. You know what I'm saying? And he's also the king of justice, just as well as Shango is. He's a bringer of justice. So if you got an energy, you got a motherfucker sitting up here that's done you unjustly and unfairly, again, he's one of those Orisha that you petition. You dig what I'm saying? That's a Chosi. He's that hitter that you send out, and you know whatever target you send him to, he go get it. He go get him every single time. Every single time. And like I said, I don't know if in a practical sense, I don't know if Ryan Coogler knew what he was portraying in this movie with all of these different energies. I don't know if he knew what he was portraying in this movie, man. But somehow I was able to look at this movie and pinpoint every single Orisha, every single spirit, or whatever the case may be, and how they apply to this movie. Because those Indians, they innately knew, like, yeah, he has a demonic energy. And if you've already invited him into your home, you're in grave danger. You're in grave danger. And sure enough, man, I'm telling you, man, this movie, like I said, man, I might even, I'm not gonna make no promises, but I might even have to make a part 2 about this movie, man. A part 2, a breakdown about this movie. Because like I said, it's so many nuances, and there's so many layers to the film. So many layers to the film, man, that I feel like a lot of people, it's kind of going over their heads right now. It's kind of going over their heads. So man, y'all get me out there in the algorithm when y'all see this playback, y'all see this movie, man. I really, you know, I really pray that y'all get us some love, man. And just leave in the comments what y'all thoughts were, and I'm looking forward to connecting with y'all, man. Like I said, I'm always looking forward to connecting with y'all. Always looking forward to connecting with y'all. You know? And I'm looking to teach more, just as well as I'm looking to learn more. So again, man, if y'all are looking to receive any of my spiritual services, please, you know, you can go to the link is actually going to be in the description to my website. You can go to my website, check my website out. I just updated my website. I got a different look to it and everything. You dig what I'm saying? Check my website out. Check out all of the services that I do provide, as far as spiritual work, as far as divination, ritual, ceremony, whatever the case may be, right? And you can also hit me up on Instagram at the Satrilrose. Feel free to DM me. Feel free to ask me any questions that you need to ask, and we can set up your consultation. You know what I'm saying? We can set up your consultation. You know, so yeah, man, I'm about to get up off of here. This was an amazing video. You know what I'm saying? To make an amazing topic to speak on. And like I said, man, I'm looking forward to pushing out more content. Love always.